Welcome back to Bevvy Live. We are delighted to be here at Fèis 2024 in the warehouses at Bruichladdich Distillery. Ross, what are we up to?
Well, we're spoiled today. There's some atmosphere out there, and we have two Fèis releases today. So we have a Bruichladdich and a Port Charlotte, the oldest Port Charlotte ever. So this should be quite special.
It's going to be cracking. Right, here we are, gents, at Bruichladdich Distillery on Bruichladdich Day for Fèis 2024. Joined by my friend and colleague Ross and Fraser, Global Brand Ambassador for Bruichladdich Single Malt.
Yes.
Thank you very much for having us here and for taking us away from sort of the excitement and the chaos of Bruichladdich Day to something a bit more quiet and serene to taste.
What a location.
As great as the day is, we all love it, but there's nothing better than sneaking away and having
In a warehouse.
Warehouse number 11. You've got the dunnage, you've got the all the amazing casks, and obviously an amazing bottle. I'm just surprised we actually made it out the courtyard.
I know,
to be honest. For those of you that don't know, that this warehouse is at the top of the hill. We had to batter through all the tourists. The bottle is intact. We're all intact, so life's good.
Tell us about this bottle then. So what we got? What we got in front of us here? It looks brilliant, first and foremost.
Yeah, I'm glad you like it. So it's obviously got the iconic Bruichladdich aqua colour, but it's interesting to see how the Rock Indaal theme that we've adopted over the last three years, how that translates to our new shape of bottle. Obviously, with us having removed the tin and made things a little better on the sustainability side of things with reductions in CO2 footprint and whatnot. But yeah, ultimately what this is a continuation of that Rock Indaal theme. For people who are familiar with Bruichladdich, years gone by, Fèis Ìle, there was always a clamour to think of a theme, a specific thing. One time, I think my first year, it was high noon, so we're all dressed like cowboys. And it was all great fun.
Because you're actually an islander.
I am, yes. If you didn't tell by my accent, I am from Ileach. I'm from Bevvy though, just across Loch Indaal.
I think that's quite special to have a global brand ambassador from the island. So you obviously love the product, and the time like now during the festival to get to celebrate new liquid must be awesome for you.
100%, yeah, it really is. And saying that, this will genuinely be the first time I've tasted this.
Okay.
I know it's on the day itself.
That's good,
I've never done this before, but I knew you guys were coming. Yeah. I wanted to save it for this.
What's your poker face like? If the liquid's terrible, obviously, you've got to.
I guess we'll find out. I've not tasted one yet that's terrible, so I'm sure.
What's interesting? So tell us a little bit about the liquid. So bottled at 50%. There's kind of a classic strength for you guys.
Yeah, that's our kind of core bottling strength. I think it can be daunting for people seeing that slightly higher number, but I think because we take great care to distill slowly, we use amazing casks, that higher percentage doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to burn your throat. What it does is it retains more of that alcohol. We're not chill filtering, so all the oils are still in there. And what it does is really ramp up the texture. That oily viscosity just is ramped up to 11. Sure. The spirit itself is 10 years old. In true Bruichladdich fashion, we have a ridiculous amount of detail that not everyone cares about, but we're able to have that traceability.
I love the transparency.
Absolutely, yeah. So the first 6 years maturation for this whiskey was all in bourbon. I think bourbon casks for Bruichladdich in particular form a really good foundation for the dram. So 6 years initially in bourbon. That was all then vatted together, and try and stay with me here. 12.5% of the batch went into sweet Austrian wine casks. Okay. Another 12.5% went into Sauterne, again sweet dessert wine casks from France. The other 75%, I'm trying to do the maths in there. Glad I'm doing this before the jam instead of after. The other 75% is actually, it's not often we say this when it comes to maturation, but something completely new for us. So this is actually the other 75% ex-brandy casks that had previously held Pedro Jimenez sherry from Fernando de Castilla. It sure is.
So straight away I'm thinking this is going to be quite a textural thing. Well, that's what we're hoping for, I suppose.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be great, and I'm kind of jumping.
Let's get it. Let you do the honours. It sounds fantastic.
I'm glad you finally said that.
I know. What an introduction. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Obviously, the presentation is stunning, as you say. It's the classic Bruichladdich sort of aqua colour. The label
That's right.
for all Rock Indaals are particularly vibrant and colourful.
That's right, yeah.
What's the sort of symbolism and story
we
behind
want
that?
to kind of, first of all, relate it to what we do. So you see, for example, this little, lovely little image here alludes to the casks, the hoops. So it all relates to a different part of production, but it maintains that kind of the vibe, I think, of the festival.
Yeah.
And as a whole, you know, everyone's reveling, having a good time. It's vibrant, it's very out there, it's colourful, and that was, you know, very much something that we wanted to encapsulate with the look of the bottle as well.
Well, thanks very much for sharing it with us. Let's have a
No
little go,
problem.
gentlemen.
Here we go.
So cheers to your
Oh,
health.
no, thanks very
Cheers,
much.
guys.
Cheers.
Happy Bruichladdich Day. Well, you just went straight for it. The nose, again, sweet, aromatic. I mean,
That's
That
really
really,
good.
that really works. I think,
What do you
given
think?
your lengthy introduction to how the whiskey is composed, I was like, there's a lot of different elements here.
A lot to unpack.
Is it
for
going to
sure.
be sort of confused? Is it going to be a hint of this and a hint of that? And it doesn't. It's brought together beautifully. It's really,
and
really
I think
pleasant.
for me, personally, one of the hallmarks of a really good whiskey is how it develops after you taste it. And I'm getting something coming out at me at different points. I think it's going to take a bit more to really unpack.
bit of time. I mean, the texture's massive straight away. Really good at the strength. Drinking strength, again, I wouldn't have assumed, other than already knowing that's your house style.
Yeah.
The 50% is generous. It's thick. It's mouth coating. But the nose is evidently quite sweet. I mean, there's a great wine influence there. And it's funny because I probably wouldn't have said much sherry influence. So the brandy's obviously been quite
absolutely.
phenomenal
Yeah, the brandy definitely gives something that I've not
Experience
tasted too
yeah.
much with our spirits. But again, I think what I really like about it is there's still evidence that it's Bruichladdich. You know, it's got that light, floral, elegant style that, again, people don't necessarily associate with whiskey that's produced here in Islay. But yeah, even, you know, 10 years old is start, you know, you're talking double figures, a little bit more mature, but there's still that element of those kind of flavours.
Yeah,
the
I think
raw.
absolutely. I think that long period in bourbon cask makes sense because it's generally more subtle cask influence, and Bruichladdich got such an amazing spirit character, like distillery DNA, and you don't want to lose that by drowning it in sweet wine casks, and brandy, and all
100%.
sorts. So it's
Exactly.
that nice twist using these different cask types, but for me, it's still quintessentially Bruichladdich.
It's almost, it's actually almost the way you described it. It's quite fresh in the front of the palate from the bourbon, and then you get a really nice, pleasant spice towards the back of the palate as well, slightly drying, which will come from the European oak or
And
other
I
wine
mean,
casks.
we've now got close to 300 different types of cask within the warehouses, which means, you know, for
Wowzers.
Adam, although not as a rule, but as a general kind of, again, framework, bourbon will form that initial foundation for the whiskey, but then the options that Adam Hannett, our head distiller, the options that he then has over and above that to just add all these little nuances and these little layers, which I think are what make this and many of our other whiskies so difficult to unpack because there's just so much flavour in there.
Yeah, I think it's something that you mentioned, Sauternes casks. Some people can be a little bit terrified of Sauternes casks because it can become too sweet. But that kind of robust, slight spice as well on the back of the palate really brings it back. I think it's an excellent expression. It's probably my favourite. How would I say it? Rock'n'Daal. Probably,
Rock'n'Daal,
Rock'n'Daal.
Yeah.
So probably my preference for any of the Rock'n'Daals I've had so
this
far.
is the third.
This is the
iteration
third
of
iteration, exactly.
Rock'n'Daal,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're very much embracing. So the kind of wordplay in the name is that the loch, the sea loch out the front of the distillery is called Loch Indaal. On its shore is Bruichladdich, Port Charlotte, and Bowmore across the water as well. And because we want this festival music vibe, we love wordplay, we love a pun.
If people haven't been to the Bruichladdich Day before, you really do put on a bit of a festival, right?
Yeah, it's got
we really
reputation
do.
of it's the one all the locals go to.
Yeah.
Even though if you're not
I
into
think
whiskey, everybody
absolutely,
goes there,
yes.
yeah.
So we are always the first Sunday, so the second day.
Yeah.
I think it helps that it's usually a bank holiday
Yeah.
the following day, so a lot of folk have got the day off work.
Sure.
But certainly in terms of the one that the locals go to, you'll always see a lot of local folk.
Well, you
at-
see
at
a lot
our
of people
day,
out there today. I mean,
which
that's
again,
amazing.
yeah, absolutely, and it ties in again with our commitment to the community and stuff. And it's almost for us a way of, you know, throwing this amazing party and giving back almost.
Yeah,
and
'cause-
another way to the community.
Fantastic.
by
As if
throwing this
being, was it
brilliant
the
party.
island's biggest employer or something, or
We
one
are,
of the
yeah.
biggest employers.
Yeah,
It's
we're
like just
the
keep
largest
on giving.
private employer.
There you go.
in the
Learn I didn't know that. Learn something
you go.
every day.
There you
But what a pleasure to share this dram with you, gentlemen. I was
Yeah,
really,
a
really
real
impressed.
treat. For lovers of classic Laddie or Laddie 10.
Yeah.
It's that, but just
Yeah.
for that little bit.
What a
little bit
location,
extra.
what a day. The warehouse is fantastic and the whiskey's a belter.
The company's not bad.
Appreciate
that's
that.
thanks.
You're a big
What a
flirt.
man.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So what we have here is the second of our festival releases for this year. This is a Port Charlotte. So this is the Rock Indaal 3.2. This is a really, really special one for us for a number of reasons. To be honest, I can't actually speak to how it tastes because I genuinely haven't tried this yet. Honestly, I know it's the day of its release today officially, but I wanted to take my time.
We
and
appreciate
enjoy
it.
it in the right
Say-
setting, with the right people, of
authentic
course,
reactions. That's
and
what
in the
we're
right
about.
way.
And trying new whiskey in a warehouse, it's the way to do it, right?
You can't beat it. You can't beat it. So this is actually the single oldest Port Charlotte that we, as a distillery, have released.
Sure. And for those
today.
who are completely new to Bruichladdich, obviously make 3 styles. You've
That's
got
right.
Bruichladdich, which is unpeated. Port Charlotte, kind of mid to heavy peated.
Yeah.
And Octomore, which is
Super heavily peated.
super crazy peated.
Heavily
It
peated.
can be slightly confusing, especially when you add into that mix that Bruichladdich, Port Charlotte and Octomore are also the name of locations on Islay.
Yeah.
So people think that it's made in these three locations, but it's not. It's all made at Bruichladdich Distillery.
Yep.
But as you rightly say, Laurie, the differentiation comes from the peating levels.
Yep.
Bruichladdich always unpeated. Port Charlotte always 40 parts per million, so just in that heavily
Nice.
peated range.
Sure.
And Octomore, of course, being stratospherically super duper heavily peated. So yeah, this one very much more the style that people associate with the island. Again, that 40 ppm. It doesn't dominate. It doesn't completely overpower everything else.
20 years old, it might dissipate a little bit here as
Exactly.
well.
Yeah. There's every chance
Yeah.
that smoke has really started to subside.
To be completely transparent, I am not great with heavily peated whiskey a lot of the time.
Oh, wow.
And so some of the viewers might have
You're
seen
an
our
Islay
previous
man.
I know it. Well, give us a
listen,
door. There we go.
I've done pre-season.
You're in the right place.
It's my first ever festival. I've done a kind of pre-season, which I kind of warmed myself up to smoky whiskey. And the whiskey that surprised me the most that I've tried in the last few months was Port Charlotte 18.
Oh, nice.
And it's because I did always struggle with the 10-year-old, but the 18 had a lovely sweetness and the peat didn't overwhelm the palate. So I'm really excited to try the 20-year-old, which will be the oldest one I've ever tasted, but also because it is the oldest Port Charlotte ever.
Exactly. Exactly. The oldest that we've released for
That's
sure.
amazing.
Shall we?
Yeah, let's do
Yeah,
it.
let's
Let's do
do
it.
it.
54% this one.
That's right. Yeah. So it does have a little bit more of that ABV to it, but again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. We're
Yeah,
obviously
generous.
seasoned drinkers of whiskey, and we know that. But
Yeah,
for anyone watching that maybe thinks that number is quite high, I think it's something we've done a lot in the past and have a reputation for is releasing our whiskies at higher strength.
And you give them their, the ability to do what they want with it then as well. So you're being more generous. I often say, if you bottle a whiskey at 40%, you've stolen whiskey from me.
Exactly.
Because you've watered it down.
Yeah,
So
100%.
getting an authentic product, quite old school style as it would have been at a slightly higher strength.
Yeah.
In terms of the cask makeup of this, is this...
Yeah, so this one, again, 20 years, it's 2 different parcels, essentially, of spirit that we've combined together.
Okay.
And again, in true Bruichladdich fashion, we've got specific percentages. So 70% of the 20-year-old liquid in here was matured in full-term bourbon casks.
Fantastic.
So again, forming that framework.
Yep.
The other 30% was Sauterne, so sweet
nice and
dessert
sweet.
wines
Okay.
from France.
That's exciting for me. I'm a lover of kind of light, fresh, sweet whiskey. So let's cheers,
On
gentlemen.
the nose, it's cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
cheers.
What do you think?
On the nose, there's not as much of the smoke as you generally get from Port Charlotte.
mean,
for me
is
at
that-
least.
Absolutely.
There's
Bit
a
of
little
minerality
whisper.
there as
Yeah,
well,
it's not.
yeah.
And for people who have had, Islay malts and perhaps been put off by, something like Lefroy, which is very much sort of love or hate, I think. This is a different sort of beast. It's almost like a
Absolutely.
smoky bacon smokiness
Yeah,
for me a little bit.
it's like a dry,
There's a
warming
sweet-
campfire
Yeah.
smoke.
There's a sweetness there as well. There's almost like a kind of, it might be a Sauterne, almost like candied orange. There's like a little citrus in
Yeah,
there.
I always get like barbecue sauce with
Like a sweet
port
barbecue
Charlotte.
sauce.
It
Yeah,
just smells delicious.
Oh, I like that note actually.
You're
Yeah.
gonna steal that for next time we do this, aren't you? Classic.
Listen, we don't get to try
Yeah.
a 20-year-old Port
No,
Charlotte
absolutely
very
not.
often.
I think it's on the nose. I think whiskies of this age sometimes.
So I have dug in.
No, I love it.
Oh,
love it.
absolutely.
It's your first time trying. You're the global brand ambassador,
exactly.
man. I
That's the
totally
thing.
get it.
I think it's reassuring that it's been kept at that strength. Older whiskies can become quite fragile, I find, and maybe a bit dominated by the cask.
Exactly.
But you want to retain that.
Again,
strength
and again, like you know, by using those bourbon casks as the framework for the dram, we're able to retain all the great stuff about the distillate, about the spirit. You know, you still got that that real kind of Port Charlotte undertone to it. You know that that's a Port Charlotte. It's not been dominated by casks. And what by using the predominantly bourbon for this maturation it does is it doesn't completely draw away from that. It's all about balance.
The palate is unmistakably Port
Oh,
Charlotte.
yeah. It's
The,
so
the,
good.
the nose is almost a bit of a tease because it's really light and welcoming and fresh.
Yeah.
The palate is what a Port Charlotte drinker wants to be welcomed with.
100%.
There's kind of a hug of smoke. Honestly, the spirit, you don't get much pepper, much kind of spirit spice whatsoever. It drinks really well at the strength. I mean, again, it's one of these things that a lot of people will reduce this with water. I'm known for adding a lot of water to my drams, but I don't feel I need it with this whiskey at the moment.
And it lingers beautifully as well,
finish,
doesn't
it's
it?
just
Really
texture
stays with
too.
you.
Yeah,
Really
and
good.
actually Adam himself, Adam Hannett, our head distiller, says that this is the best Port Charlotte that he's created.
Wow. That's
There you go, that is
So that's very high praise. And what we actually have on the bottle for anyone eagle-eyed that's maybe into their music is this is a Joy Division themed label. So we've actually got on the label here Roman numerals.
Okay.
Which it's subtle, but you can see there you've got the M, and then the three I's,
Singles,
singles, which signify 2003, which is when this was distilled.
Nice.
So again, a little nod to that music festival vibe, all inspired by our team, and a big shout out as well to Dan Roy. He's our graphic designer. He's from Islay. Incredibly talented. And
Your bottles never disappoint.
No, they certainly don't. And a lot of that's down to him and the team that we have here.
But there's never been as much whiskey available as there is now. So I think a bottle that truly stands out that you can identify from 20 yards away in a bar is real achievement.
It's my first time to the festival. It's my first time visiting the distillery. So to be in the warehouse sharing this with you, gentlemen, what an absolute pleasure.
And to have survived the walk from the courtyard up to here as well. Given
We
the
managed to
madness.
smuggle out underneath our...
Like you say, fun and frivolity.
It seems like
big
the
day.
busy. This is obviously a very busy day with the locals as well because of what you guys put on here. So
Yeah, absolutely.
a pleasure to try it, gentlemen. I think that's really unique whiskey.
And your first taste of this?
Oh,
A
brilliant.
thumbs up?
Big two
Yeah,
thumbs
good.
up, actually. If I could give a third, I would.
Your favourite Port Charlotte you've had?
You'll need
Well,
to
there's a
give
lot
me
of
a bit
pressure,
more
right?
time.
Okay,
There's
there's
a
a lot
lot
of
to unpack.
Yeah.
You know,
That's a big statement
It's certainly,
for
it's a very good first impression.
Yeah.
But I'll need a bit more time with this. I like to let a dram open up.
I get you.
And really get to know it, you know.
Absolutely.
Before
No, that's
I make
really...
any rash calls.
It's a stunning dram. And Bruichladdich and obviously Port Charlotte, Octomore have got such a cult following.
Absolutely,
Any sort of limited release like this is just going to disappear in the blink of an eye. So
Exactly.
yeah, and if you get a chance to snap this up,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
This is
A pleasure for us to try it.
We may or may not have another thing or two up our sleeves for later in the week. So
what
Okay.
a tease!
Okay.
What a tease!
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
There we go.
It's fine.
Well, we'll see.
It's fine.
Right, cheers, gentlemen.
I know,
Thank
cheers,
you so much.
Guys.
Really impressive.
Absolute
for the
pleasure.
Cheers.
Thanks, Fraser.
That is a wrap for Sunday at Fèis Ìle 2024 at Bruichladdich Day, which is always a highlight for me, for the island, for everybody.
Yeah, that
It's
was
always
really
fantastic.
special. In the Dunnage warehouse, great, interesting cash build-up and really interesting liquid from Bruichladdich. And the Port Charlotte, probably the best Port Charlotte I've
Stunning.
ever had.
Yeah.
What are we doing tomorrow?
Tomorrow is Monday, so we are off to Kalila. Should be really, really interesting to see what they're up to.
Yeah.
If you're enjoying the video so far, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow.
Cheers.